morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to everybody listening on CKLU 96.7 FM and online at cklu.ca. Welcome. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's been my pleasure to be here with you this morning. I just remembered I didn't put on my suit coat yet, but just scrambling to get everything on and get everything prepared for what might happen today. This is Remembrance Day. It is November the 11th, 2022. It is Friday, and we are looking at having a special show this morning, Remembrance Day show. We'll be joined very shortly by Brian Poulin, who is a veteran who's been on the show before, and he'll be on the show again. Brian has not only a communication background in the armed forces, he also, after that, came back and started a communications company and a cell phone company, and has since moved on from that. And he's going to be looking into other things to do with tech. And in the meantime, he'll offer his understanding of technical things to the show. And we will then be the beneficiary of his knowledge. And he'll be on this morning. So it's mostly to do with Remembrance Day today. However, we will be chatting a little bit of tech. But we should also be joined by one of the organizers for the convoy. You remember that? Back in February. We've been exchanging, emails and messages back and forth for the last week or so. So we should actually be, talking with him today. We were supposed to have two of the organizers on, but then one of them obviously wasn't able to make it due to, I think for the most part, the time difference. This individual was in Calgary. They are 2 hours behind. So yeah, our comments are working this morning. So good morning, Jordan. Thanks for being with us. Much appreciated. Should be a good show this morning. We have our regular, you'll have some weather, some sports. Sudbury Wolves are in action tonight and tomorrow night here in town. Talk a little bit about that, as well as the headlines. And then our theme for this week has been Remembrance Day. So we're talking all things to do with what does Remembrance Day mean for us? What does it mean in general? What do we celebrate, or what do we remember on Remembrance Day? So thanks for being with us this morning. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff to help our socials be able to get out to as many people, get the show out to as many people as possible, and help spread this show, so that way more people can know that they can chime in on the conversation. It's a community conversation about all things important to do with Sudbury. And so it's going to be a good show today. We're going to get started with a little bit of weather. I'll be back hopefully with my suit coat and the weather and some of the headlines, sports included, right after this. We'll be right back. And yes, weather happens every single day, and we're glad that we can cover it. It's changing. Look, it could be really bad out there, but it's not, because up north, they're experiencing quite a bit of rain, snow, ice, you name it, north of here. So Timmins, Cochrane, Chapleau, all of those areas are experiencing some really bad weather today, but not so much here in Sudbury. So currently 7 degrees. There's a little bit of mist. It's 99% humidity. Today, it'll be a 60% chance of showers with a high of 14. So mainly cloudy as well. The wind will be 20 kilometers coming from the south, but the temperature then will be falling to about 10 this afternoon. UV index is 1 or low. And tonight, cloudy, 60% chance of rain, showers changing to 30% chance of flurries. So yeah, we are looking at some of the same weather as they have up north, but just a little bit later today. Saturday, cloudy with 40% chance of flurries. The wind will be northwest, 20 kilometers, becoming light in the morning. Temperatures steady near -1. Wind chill will feel like -8 on Saturday. So no more of the nice warm temperatures that we've been used to. It's dropping. So 40% chance of flurries tomorrow. -1 is the high. And cloudy, -2 for Sunday. -3, mix of sun and cloud for Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, more chance of flurries, 60%. And the same for Thursday as well, a little bit of chance of flurries. So that's your weather coming up in the next couple of days or so. We'll be joined very shortly by Brian. You can kind of hear him coming on there. Just had to mute his mic. So hopefully remember to unmute it. And good morning, David. Thanks for joining us. Where is your poppy? Yes, I did not have my suit coat on. I do now have my suit coat on with my poppy. Thank you. Yes, good morning. Lest we forget the price of freedom. Thank you, Jerome. Yes, that is correct. Special Remembrance Day, Sudbury News today. We'll be joined by Brian right after the weather and a little bit of sports, talking that and many, many other things. That's a look at your satellite picture over Northern Ontario. You can see a lot of that activity around Timmins, Cochrane, Tri-Town area. So that's coming our way shortly. Lucky us. Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with a little bit of sports and then Brian Poulin headlines and more, and maybe even one of the organizers of the Freedom Convoy, if our messaging and all that worked out and that. So it's not guaranteed, but we're planning on having someone on this morning. We'll be right back with some sports right after this. Yes, the Sudbury Wolves will be in action tonight against Guelph, and then tomorrow night they will be facing the Kitchener Rangers. Both games at the Sudbury Arena, both games 7:05 puck drop, and you can still get tickets for both of those games. Now, Randy Pascal, who's the historian for the Sudbury Wolves, he also does, he does the timekeeping for games. He also is the owner of SudburySports.com. And he has been doing sports forever and ever and ever. Remember back on the days of Persona, he was the community television station. He had his own sports segment on that, and he has been covering sports, seems like forever. And anyone who's been in amateur sports in Sudbury or as a parent of someone who's been in sports knows Randy, knows his personal approach that he takes, and we couldn't have anyone better in the helm of what he is doing in terms of being the historian for the Sudbury Wolves. So he basically sends out a weekly kind of update on little tidbits and facts. This is the 50th anniversary of the Sudbury Wolves in the OHL. So looking at the amount of captains we've had, team captains over the years, we've had 49 team captains in 50 years. And that's because they've gone a couple seasons without a captain. They just chose to have alternate captains a couple seasons. And then there's been a few seasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where captains have had it for more than 1 year. So it totals up 49 in 50 years, almost an even 50-50. So a couple tidbits about the games he shares with us coming up. The Guelph game, the Guelph Storm currently sit at the bottom of the Midwest Division, and so the Wolves should be able to handle them. They should be able to. They just came off some overtime shootout wins against the Sioux and Sarnia before falling 9-5 against the Flint Firebirds coming into this game. So hopefully they're still licking their wounds, and the Sudbury Wolves can capitalize on that. But the return of native Mitchell Martin of Sudbury, he's currently second in team scoring for the Kitchener Rangers. They'll be coming into town on Saturday, and they seem to be doing very well in the Western Conference. They're in fourth place, and they have a current record of 6-7-0, almost 500 hockey. But yeah, they'll be a little bit tougher of an opponent on paper anyways for the Sudbury Wolves, but you can catch both those games here on CKLU tonight and tomorrow. It'll be broadcast online and over the radio. You can also get tickets, go in and see it live, and I'm not sure if Eastlink is broadcasting those games. However, go Wolves go tonight and tomorrow at the Sudbury Arena, part of their long homestand that they have currently. We'll be back with Brian Poulin and some headlines right after this. All right. So yes, it is the 50th anniversary of the Sudbury Wolves, and we're hoping to, get some momentum going. Things haven't been the easiest for them in this season so far. It just seems like they just can't seem to get it together. And coaching change, just recently, Derek McKenzie has been added as their new coach. He was the coach before as well. So this isn't his first crack. Sorry, he wasn't their coach before. He was their captain before. So he's an alumni. He was captain of the Sudbury Wolves back in the early 2000s. You may remember him. Went on for an illustrious NHL career, and then was also an assistant coach later as well. So yes, good morning, Pam. Thanks for joining us. We have our comments up and running here. We will have Brian Poulin joining us. We'll just make sure that his microphone is on now. I just muted him.
Good
so
to go. Oh,
yeah, you're good to go, Brian.
okay.
Great to see you
Alright.
here this morning.
Thought I
Let's
was having
you just
audio
don't-
problems.
yeah, now you have video problems, so we don't have any.
I do.
Yeah. But we have your voice, which is good. So
yeah, I think that's okay though.
yeah,
Yeah, I tried to
better than
figure out the
nothing.
video problem, but yeah, it's better than nothing. Gee, I wish I could.
yeah. And that's why we like to do, just get do a little troubleshooting beforehand. But we've
Yes,
already
yeah,
done that before.
yeah,
And so things
um,
seem to
yeah.
work really well, unless something has changed on your end. But I know, again, technical things, Brian, as you know, anything
As
can
I
happen.
know.
Anything can happen. You can be an
Indeed.
expert at this. I've worked with many experts over the years in technical things with websites and whatever have you. And there's no end to things that this is what I always encounter with the experts I work with. I haven't seen this before. Yeah, that's the thing I'm so used to hearing is that very statement. Wow, I've never seen this before. Yeah, it's true, because things you've never seen happen all the time, and then now you know them, and then there's millions of other things that could happen later on. So I'll just go through some of the headlines here while you're with us, and if you are kind of trying to figure out the video thing, that's cool.
Yeah.
We should be joined by Jason Lafauci at a certain point. He's an individual who lives in Sudbury. He was one of the organizers for the Freedom Convoy, and so we've been back and forth, trying to nail down a time or a day when he's going to be on the show. And so we did nail down today was going to be that day. And I said, "Do you want to go through some troubleshooting last night?" He said, "No, I do this all the time. There's going to be no problems." So yeah. And anyway, send him the link, and yeah, and I know as sure as I live, just like you just experienced, Brian, and here you are with your video, which is awesome, that things can happen. And even if you've been on many videos and blah, 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 and you know all kinds of things, it doesn't necessarily mean it jives with our particular software that we have here and that everything's going to work perfectly. But anyway.
So in my case, I just figured it out. What the simple thing was is that I had forgot to select the webcam as a source. So I had the
there you
audio.
go.
But it was just, I just clicked the thing. And
yeah. And because you've been through this a million times.
Thank goodness it was as simple as that, because I'm not ready for
It's early in the morning.
It is. And I woke up with, a very similar voice to what you might have had.
Oh, yeah.
Not long ago. So I think I might have caught a little bit of whatever that thing is that's going around that tickles people's throats all over Sudbury.
Yeah, you know, it has been, but it is good for radio. I have to admit, the deeper voice comes through really, really well in radio. So Remembrance Day today, obviously, there's a really great editorial in the Sudbury Star.
There is so much awesome stuff out there that I made note of last night. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you have over there that's making a sound like it's jingling quite a bit, but
okay.
Something's jingling. You're getting ready for Christmas already, it sounds like. You could be part of the...
No, not quite yet.
Part of a Christmas choir. You just be a really great addition to that. But the...
like a Christmas mouse and quiet.
Yeah. So there's the rattling back again, whatever the rattling is. So, Brian, thanks again. We talked about it before during the week. Thanks for your service to the country. You served for, 12 years?
A little over 15 years.
Well, I don't know why the number 12 came to me, but anyways, over 15 years. So how does that sound? And that was, again, service that I just wanted to thank you personally for on this day, and all of the other veterans, whether they served during combat or they served during times of peace, whether they served on the battlefield, or they served at home, whatever anybody did to serve their country, to basically either fight for freedom or to fight to keep it. Either way,
and freedom of speech, which is really big in this country right now, and
for sure,
I think it's very important that I wanted to challenge all the listeners today to to really take the time and take that 11 minutes. And for me, it becomes a day of reflection. So thank you for the sentiment. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy hearing, that recognition. I think it's very important. I'm going to go downtown today, and I'm see how many mingle and see how many old timers are left. To me, those are the real heroes. But we all, any of us that have served in whatever capacity, thank you. All.
Yeah, no, it's and it gives us this day to focus and honor. Without it, we would forget. And I think it's even harder. It's still hard to remember. Like even on today, I think a lot of people, and I know even myself, certain November 11th in the past, I remembered less than others. I just didn't really take the time and really focus, and honestly, give the reverence. I think the reverence needed for saying thank you from the bottom of my heart, just in my own private way.
Mhm.
So not everybody agrees. The idea of wearing a poppy, they don't want to go along with the crowd, or one day, to commemorate something. We don't like to kind of fall in line with things like that. But if you don't do something like that, then it's really hard to, you kind of almost, you have to set a day aside. You have to have symbols that go along with what we're trying to remember. And I have a commemorative pin that I have on right now. It has three things. It has a poppy in the foreground, a poppy in the background, and then it has a gold maple leaf. And so the gold maple leaf represents the
Right.
strength of Canada and the values and the
Right.
freedom that we do have. And then the poppy in the foreground represents those who have, you know, um, have fought or have done things in the foreground to fight for our country. And then
Very interesting.
the
Yeah.
poppy in the background represents those
Hmm.
that have worked behind
Hmm.
the scenes in so
Hmm.
many ways to also uh,
Hmm.
contribute to the cause, so to speak.
Hmm. So a lot of I've seen a lot of symbols out there. There was one illustration I saw yesterday that was rather moving, and I was going to see if I could maybe um, get it up on the screen here.
Yeah, Miles, and while we're waiting for that, Miles was saying that
But
it's not hard for him to remember because his father served in Europe starting on D-Day. And so he feels closer to his father today than any other day. What a day that was! I know there's been many a film done on D-Day, and horrific. Just the idea of that, and here you are, you just left home for the first time, many of them, and right into that kind of um, that situation. I can't even imagine. You're on a boat, you're given a gun, you're given a little bit of training, you're told, you're going to be fighting for your freedom and for the freedom of your country, and here it comes down to it. It's a boat ride over from your country, and then you're put on a different boat, and here you go. There's no turning back. What are you going to do? Well, you can't change your
man,
mind.
I just yeah. Mm,
You know,
hmm.
you're
Yeah,
not
you
changing your
really
mind.
in your mind. I think that's for me. Uh, I joined at a time when uh, there was, this was in the early '90s, so this would have been, if anybody who knows, would be the Desert uh, Storm War that was under the Bush administration. So this was a where a certain country, specifically Iraq, had decided that they were going to invade the Kuwaiti people land
Mm-hmm.
and take that over. And so um, when I trained, it was pretty much from training and deployment. And I knew in my head, like, it was like, here you go, and like you say, on a boat, on a plane,
Yeah,
and you're going off to a foreign land. You don't know, far away from home for some, and who knows for how long, you know
yeah.
uh,
So many unknowns.
so many unknowns. So yeah, and for anybody to be able to do that, I think, to
Yeah,
fight for the very freedom that we enjoy
yeah,
today. And I mean everything. The fact that you can go out there, walk freely, go about your business. You have the freedom of speech.
yeah.
Um, Certain places, you can't do that. So yeah, that was all going through my head on the way there, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not easy, Brian. And and
mhm,
and again, you, along with all of your comrades, basically, you joined a specific group of people by doing that through a lot of time, right? Like you now are a part of a brother and sisterhood of a unique group of people through time. You share that with them. And so, and this is on this day, it's a time when citizens can honor and share in that with that special group that you have been a part of, and kind of together commemorate it, because every time someone's able to be thankful for even one freedom they have, it came at a price. It didn't just happen. Freedom doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't stay by accident. It actually takes effort and a lot of lives, unfortunately, and a lot of sacrifice. And but you did. So I do want to kind of weave in then some of the stories we have today with what we're talking about today, because I think we can. I think we
I
can
think
do
so
this.
too.
Now, November 11th today in Sudbury, it's a special day, and so they're not going to be collecting any garbage. So I just want to announce that now, just for people that had their garbage day on Friday. The garbage and recycling will not be picked up today. It will be picked up tomorrow instead, November the 12th. Please have household waste on the roadside no later than 7 a.m. Landfill and transfer stations will be open. Recycling center will be open. The GOVA transit buses will be operating on regular schedules and routes. Libraries, citizen service centers, Tom Davies Square, Greater Sudbury Animal Shelter will all be closed. Greater Sudbury pools and fitness facilities will be closed. 311 and live webcast chat 311.greatersudbury.ca will not be available. Call 311 for urgent public works, animal control, or COVID enforcement services.
Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. I can see you have your thing on the screen there. That's good. You have the ability to share things, which is cool, right? So that's one of the announcements I just want to get to. But then you're talking about freedom of speech, right? And that is important. And so sometimes freedom of speech, there's a humorous aspect to that as well. It's not just.
There is, and I think sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because people
wanted,
say the darndest things. You remember that show back in the day? Kids say the darndest things. Well, people say the darndest things. And I think if you stop freedom of speech, I mean, like that's the thing. Did you hear what that person said? Someone has to stop that person from saying those things. And that's the sentiment of so many people out there. And they don't realize what they're saying when they say that. They're actually calling for socialism or communism when they say things like that. We have to stop people from saying that. And I've always been leery when I hear different people, or we have to fire that person because they said something. Okay, well, did they break a law? Because that's why we have laws, right? Did they break a law? Did they do something illegal? Or did they do something against the ethics that
but then even our
entered
laws
into?
are questionable. Like
They can be, for sure, yes.
yeah. For example, with what I believe is overstepping with the federal government and the Emergency Measures Act. I mean, this is a War Measures Act. It wasn't meant to wasn't designed for, there was a time and purpose for it, and so that's sort of freedom being torn away from Canadians because of the government, the very government that we're supposed to trust. Yeah, and I'm hoping that Jason, away those freedoms.
Yeah, and I was hoping that Jason could be on here today to explain those types of things, and then get your reaction to it as well as a veteran. Because a lot of things were said that the convoy were doing things against veterans and things, and I just wanted to see if you felt that same way.
Well, you did say something a couple of shows ago. I know it's been a short week, with the Tuesday and then Wednesday, the Wi-Fi issue, and then yesterday, which I haven't seen yesterday's show, but I'll check it out. But on the show before that, you had mentioned something about, what was politically correct, not so long ago, or 10, 15 years ago, is sort of like no longer politically correct to say, but it was politically correct then. So, and is that being suppressed is that, that's, to me, that's a sort of loss of freedom. And not
Hmm.
exactly sure where I was going with this, but
Well, I did mention the hockey player, the Boston Bruins. He did
um,
something when he was 14 years
so
old,
yeah,
and
that
that was
is.
brought up when he was drafted. Um, and the NHL got on that right away, and the social media warriors went to work right away. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it was stopped almost as soon as it happened when they acquired this player. It was
Mhm,
known that he bullied back when he was 14 years old a disabled black male, and we don't know the details of it. Now, Miles, I'm sure, will type in that he's researched it a bit, and
hmm,
now could somebody have gone too far? I think yes. I mean, it's open for debate, but I don't know exactly what he did or what he said, and what 14-year-old didn't do something where would be questionable if you looked at the later career path they would choose. If you look back to something you did when you were 14 years old, I'm
mhm,
sure all of us, would have did something that that society would frown upon and say that just isn't right, and we would then also be the subject of being canceled. But that's I
mhm.
think what you might be referring to is and again, that was never politically correct to bully somebody, but
No,
um
no. So I no, yeah.
but but like you said, like people do, they
But
go back in their
it's
tweets
the
and things and find tweets they did way back in
mhm,
the day, and now they're held accountable for them today to today's politically correct
mhm,
standards.
mhm, mhm. I just feel like perhaps that was actually bad choice of words, but um, I just feel that our freedoms are being literally taken away from us by the day, and I fear um, it's
Yeah.
a very sad situation.
Do you think there's now I always think there's something
Uh,
cyclical to it. There's a cycle to freedom in some ways, you know? Like if you have absolute freedom, how long can you expect to have absolute freedom for?
mhm, mhm,
Like what
mhm.
elements does it take to continue with with 100% freedom,
Well,
you know?
war would be one of them.
Yeah.
You know,
Kind of it's a resetter. It resets
to
things.
do. I mean, I can't. Again, I can't help but think. What is to come. We've sustained the freedom for this long. Now it's being taken away from us. So now there's civil revolt everywhere. Um,
But a lot of people
and what
say no,
it is.
no freedom's being taken away from you. It's all in your head.
I don't feel that way.
I had a friend of mine say, well, no, you had. What do you mean? You had all freedom when the mandates come out forcing everybody that they had to adhere to the mandates,
Mhm,
and you would lose your job. You still had a choice. You could have taken the the thing prescribed to you by the government, saying if you don't take it, you lose your job. But you could have taken it, so you chose your results. You still had freedom. What do you think of that argument?
mm.
You didn't have to lose your job. You just had to do what the government told you.
No, I don't buy it.
So that's
That's not
freedom.
freedom. That's not. No, I'm afraid that's. I wouldn't
But
can't
that's where
agree
we're
with
at now,
that.
Brian. That's where we're
Yeah,
at. People do say
yeah.
things like that. Our
Mhm,
citizens think that freedom is that you
mhm,
can still choose. And
mhm,
I'll make the argument that someone in a concentration camp still has choice. Like you could still choose to be happy in your mind, even if you're starving, you're beaten, your family's killed in front of your eyes.
mhm,
They can't take away the choice that you have in your mind to still be happy.
mhm,
Like they can't beat
mhm,
that out of you. They can't beat what's going on in
mhm,
your mind
mhm,
out of you. So you still have a choice, but do you have freedom though? You know?
mhm.
No. Freedom is a whole
What?
different thing
Yeah,
altogether.
and it can mean very different things for different people. Entire
Yeah.
cultures, in fact, can define freedom as being something. Um,
And what do you define
Very
freedom as,
different.
Brian? What in your mind, if you were to just kind of, and you know, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but what would be your definition of freedom?
What would be my definition of freedom?
It's hard, eh? It's not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that come to my mind, and you can chime in, and I'm just gonna, do this. I think one thing is limited government. Limited government is part of the definition of freedom to me.
I'm sorry, I missed that first part there.
Yep.
What?
I was just going to say limited government is one of the things that I think is,
Limited government.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's yeah, very interesting
There was a
question.
wise man who said one time, and I'm just going to quote him, that if you teach correct principles, people can govern themselves.
Hmm.
They don't need micromanaging helicopter government parents constantly over them, making sure every
Hmm.
step that they're doing is the safest decision they need to make for themselves. And the more you have big government, the more that just naturally happens, because they need to have a usefulness. They need to prove that there's a reason why they're there and they're being
Hmm.
paid, and they need to make you safer, make you more efficient, do whatever, and you're constantly being micromanaged is what ends up happening.
This helicopter hovering,
Yeah, like a helicopter
watching.
parent, right? Over a child. It just
Right,
becomes the government doing that over its
hmm,
citizens.
right. And I think as of late, a little bit too aggressively. So I would agree with you there. Less government. Um,
Because if you have less government, then you never
you
have.
know, I want to be able to, go out there without the fear of being reprimanded, being persecuted for something that should be totally free, like speech,
Yep.
and being able to walk into a mall or an establishment or wherever, just free with choice.
Yep.
It's my choice. Not because uh, not because the government dictates it, or I've seen enough of that crap, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to see it happening in my country, it's very saddening.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends. Okay. Yeah. So I guess Miles chiming in on my comment if you choose to be happy or not. And Shane's comment
Well,
is,
for me, there was a choice in it too. I mean, when I decided, okay, I don't want no more of this.
yeah,
This political landscape is changing. I've spent enough days out here. I've watched enough friends drop to the ground that do I continue on to do? I feel I wasn't fighting for that cause anymore. To
yeah,
free the Quay people, which was to give them that liberty, the ability to be free from
yep,
you know and the landscape was changing in such a way that I felt that they weren't no longer aligned with my morals and values, and
mm-hmm,
I made the decision that I want to be free. I want to. I have. I'm free to request a discharge, and so I did.
yep,
The irony is that it took longer than usual to process my paperwork, but that's a something to talk about in itself. But I wasn't the least bit annoyed that my paperwork was delayed. But after getting out of there, and it was time to rebuild a life for me. I was done, and I don't regret a single minute serving. Um,
No.
you know,
And things aren't black
although
and
I may
white.
not agree, yeah,
Yeah, things
I may
aren't
not
black and white
agree
all the
with
time.
the
Yeah.
executive,
Yeah.
chief and commander,
Yep.
uh,
There's
whoever
been
that
many
might
many
be.
atrocities done in the name of freedom over
Mhm.
the course of time as well. Like we
I've
can't. It's
seen
not
too
black.
many.
Yeah, it's not
Seen
black and
my.
white. Oh, military fighting for freedom. Oh, we're the good guys. No, we're not saying any of that whatsoever. There's been many things done questionable over
Well,
time in the name of freedom, in the name of that. Right. So
yeah,
we can go on and on about that.
yeah.
However, there's not enough time in the day to go into that. We're just discussing
No,
freedom
no,
itself.
there isn't,
Yeah.
and there
Now,
really isn't enough time in the whatever remaining days I have to,
no,
and that's when you sort of have to say, okay, well, I'm just too old to give up, you know. But no, I don't say that at all. I mean,
now I've heard
you're never too old to give a,
I've
but
heard Shane's definition quite a few times by a lot of people, and I myself, it's part of what my core belief of freedom is as well. He says, I'm a crazy libertarian, but in my idea of freedom is doing whatever you want as long as it doesn't harm people or property.
hmm,
All right, like again,
mhm,
like you do what you want as long as it's not going to harm
mhm,
somebody else or
mhm,
somebody else's
mhm,
property. So
right.
I think that can be a base. You can add to that. I think that's that could be like the middle of the bubble of the brainstorm, and then out of that you maybe add a few appendages. But I think
Mhm,
that's by and
mhm,
large live and let live, kind of the idea. As long as you grant me the freedom to do what I want, you know what I mean? Like you should
mhm.
be able to do whatever you want as well. And we should all have that respect for each other as long as it's not harming other people or their property or things like that. And I think that's a kind of
Life and liberty, yeah. Mhm.
a nice definition there. Now Miles has a thing here that's not going to fit on the screen. Freedom is subjective. Now that's interesting. Freedom
Freedom is
is
subjective.
It's not
Oh
only
boy.
subjective, it's
Mm,
very,
mhm,
very subjective. But
mhm,
society now, the family has disintegrated morals and principles. People have grown up without correct principles to guide them. And that's why some governments say they can't guide themselves. They're not moral enough. Not saying that's right, just saying, yeah, because that's the new religion, right? The new woke religion. Society itself is a religion these days, and it's going to tell you what is right or wrong. It's like that Boston Bruins thing. Like that's like an ethical thing. It's a moral thing, and society has been the judge on that, and it's going to judge you, in an ethical way, more than laws itself.
society is
You
pivoting.
know,
It's pivoting
yeah,
in a very, very
yeah,
major way
yeah.
at this time, at this moment in time.
Yeah. It's like people say they don't believe in God or they don't believe in church or they don't believe in these things, but they have this religious fervor that they believe in and they don't understand. It's just like a communism fervor. It's like a religious communism that is out there that's demanding people be canceled, demanding people be shut down,
Mhm,
demanding freedom of speech. Like
mhm,
like Elon Musk was the golden child of left-wing media for the longest time because of the climate change issue that is so predominant amongst their doctrine, and they want he's the electric vehicle is so key to that thing that he was the golden child and he's off to space and he could do no wrong. Oh, but yet he buys Twitter and wants freedom of speech. Oh, wait a minute here. This Elon
mhm,
Musk guy, he's kind of dumb. Look what he did. Oh, this is going to be a train wreck. This whole Twitter thing. Freedom. They just turned right on him like you wouldn't believe.
mhm, mhm,
Overnight,
mhm,
he was a golden child. Went to like wiping your feet on his hair like a doormat. So
mhm,
in the woke religion, the new woke worldwide religion that we have, that's going to tell you what's right or wrong, moralistically, through the media is,
sure.
we see an
Mhm.
example of that, how quickly it can turn from good to bad. If you just switch
Mhm.
your tune, as long as your tune goes along with what they're saying, they'll put you up on a pedestal. But as soon as you think for yourself or you say something that isn't quite going along with
So it's
that,
kind
you're done.
right.
Yeah.
And the willing get rewarded, right? And so,
Yeah.
they
But
follow
speak,
and
and speaking of one
why
of
yeah,
these,
I mean, I really want to be careful with what I say because I don't want to
get arrested.
and
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of world we're getting into. We got to
um,
watch, you're not allowed to
yeah,
say what you want to
I
say.
walk on pins and needles every frickin' day,
Yeah. You're not allowed to
Just
say what you want to say. But
it
here's,
doesn't I can't and if you do, well look out because you know, you might end up in jail.
yeah, that's again, right? Is that a free,
For saying
society?
something that would have been perfectly acceptable
Yeah.
20
5
years ago.
or 2 years ago, even 2 years ago,
or
right?
even 2
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Well, no. Yeah.
So here you have
So
a,
no wonder the English language has been butchered.
yeah, you have a local counselor here who, bless his soul, does feel, he doesn't feel that he has to be censored or whatever. And it's Michael Vagnini. So
Mm.
he said something controversial at the last council meeting. During past Tuesday's council meeting, Ward 2 Councillor Michael Vagnini again claimed there's city money sitting, quote unquote, outside of the books and, quote unquote, in an account that nobody says really exists.
Ha!
I feel that only the taxpayers should be aware of that. Oh, that not only the taxpayers should be aware of that, but I also feel that we as councils should be looking at this and asking, why are the reserves set up in this way or the way they are?
Yeah. Right,
Vag-
right. That is
Vagnini,
very
Vagnini said taxpayer money sitting in the account that nobody says really exists during Tuesday's council meeting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
City General Manager of Corporate Services, Kevin Faulk, clarified there is no money that is off the books here. These are all part of our audited financial statements. Point of order, I never suggested anything was off the books. Vagnini then kind of recounted what he had said. Vagnini interjected, prompting several city councilors to throw up their hands in exasperation. I publicly apologized if I used those words, he later added, after being informed by his colleagues that he did in fact claim that he said that money was off the books, kind of thing. So there you got it. A little bit of drama from city council. And again, what would we have if we weren't allowed freedom of speech? So you can kind of see here, freedom of speech. The guy said something, maybe it was totally bizarre, let's say, and then said he never said it, but it's all recorded. We could look at it and talk about it and see it. No one was killed about it or for it. He said something. You can say dumb things, and then if you're smart enough, you can tell the difference between something that's not true and something that's true, as long as you have the freedom to say it. If I said, Brian, looks like you're growing a green beard this morning.
Yeah.
And people would see watching this and say, wait a minute, his beard doesn't look green, but I was able to say it. I was able to say something that was wrong, and just factual people just looking at the facts saw your beard is not green. And then you could say, yeah, actually, AJ, my beard isn't green. Oh yeah, you're right, Brian. It's not green.
I'm happy that you think my beard, or that you see my beard as being green, and I'm very pleased that this is this is okay with you.
Yeah, and for the record, for anyone listening on the radio, your beard is not
you may
green.
want to consider this other argument here that my beard is not.
But how good could it be that somebody, at least, and let's say someone felt they couldn't speak up because they're not allowed to, because there's no freedom of speech, and they don't want to make a mistake. Yeah. Well, many of us in our families have similar dynamics, right? Like So you don't want to go out on a limb and say something just in case you're going to get this public backlash or lose your job if you're wrong or whatever. And so everyone just kind of stays complacent and doesn't say anything. And what kind of world do you have now? If you can't feel, at least you can at least vocalize something and say something.
Zombies and robots. That's what you got.
And that's where we're going. And I think, unfortunately, government, and it's almost like the classroom. The classroom would rather have a lot of drugged up kids sitting there, drugged out of their minds, able to just be quiet, rather than being rambunctious and run around the class and hard to manage. Because it's hard to manage a class like that. Just like with the government, it's hard to manage people who speak for themselves and people who think for themselves. Hard to manage that. Hard to get things pushed through that they see things that need to be done. So if you can just squash that, and like we found our prime minister lately at being, admiring a dictatorship in China, just admiring their kind of dictatorship. And that, he said that on record. He said that in the public. Now, wow. So what kind of thing goes through your mind when you hear something like that? And by the way, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will not be part of the ceremonies today. He's at a meeting in Asia, like a conference, because it's really important that he's there.
Hey, Chief.
Not that he's here remembering, he remembered on his way out. He stopped in New Brunswick on his way out and paid his respects while he was on his way to the Asian summit where he's going to be today. What are your thoughts about that?
No thoughts, no comment, no comments. My thoughts? Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Is this anything like the Queen performance you did in the hotel lobby when you went to, the Queen's funeral sort of thing? I don't know. This Prime Minister's behavior is not impressed.
Yeah.
Not impressed at all. Very disappointed.
Yeah. He's not going to get any hot water because the media really will. If he was a conservative prime minister, the media would be all over that. And, but in the media, it swings so left. Have you ever seen a hurricane on TV? A hurricane and the trees are bent to the ground. So the media swings left, but they swing left just like those trees in a hurricane. So no matter what, if you look at the difference between a Joe Biden TV conference and a Donald Trump TV press conference, oh my, you would think, and the only thing that changes it is the way the media asks questions. That's the only thing that's different. The media was attacking Donald Trump like nobody's business every time he did a press conference. Attack. And they basically asked Joe Biden questions like, "What's your favorite ice cream?" They could not hold him to account in any way, shape, or form. Now, another thing is, what are your views on the election in the United States with the voting in 3 of the states? The voting now is, they say we won't have results till next Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
In some of these places. What are your thoughts on that?
This whole problem can be solved very simply by throwing away the machines and voting on paper.
I know. Go back to old school. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong. Why would you put yourself in your democracy, if you so-called democracy, they're not even a democracy, but they're a republic. But why would you put that in the hands of even electricity? Let's say there's a nationwide power outage during the election, right? And if they're relying on these machines and things, like, what's wrong? Like,
And I think there should be, the machines allow for less transparency. I mean,
exactly.
So, just chipping away at the democracy some more. I'm even beginning to question myself. What is democracy, anyways? What is it really like? Freedom is part of that, yes.
Yeah.
But
now other states get it done have way more population than Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia or whatever.
An example, sure. Didn't France run an entire election in a single day?
Yeah.
Anyways, it was just, you can run an election in a single day. It's not that difficult, people. And we don't need machines to do it. Just a bunch of freaking people that want to exercise their democratic right and pull together, and you create an election body like we have here, and let's go. Let's, everything's documented. It's the election systems. Even in Ontario are really starting to shift that way, and I'm sad to see it.
And the whole thing is, once the people lose confidence, that's what it comes down to. Once you lose confidence, like if everyone lost confidence in our law, in our system of law, you would have lawlessness, and everyone would just go. Can you imagine that? It would be anarchy,
like the purge.
It would be like the purge. And I think there's a faction that would really want that to happen. I think in high places, because it seems like that anyways, because a lot of these things getting pushed forward, that seems like where we're headed. It seems like
I feel the same way. Yeah.
Your buttons are being pushed. You're kind of being taunted a bit. You're being taunted. Oh yeah. So I don't understand where all is coming from. It just seems like that. And it is attack on our freedoms. And it doesn't seem very free if we can't have, confidence in the very right to vote and to feel confident in that vote. I think is core to feeling you live in a free country where you can, in fact, vote. Can you imagine if you felt you didn't, the candidate who got in by cheating? Imagine everybody kind of found that out, how much, that backlash would be from that. So Jerome's getting the last word today, because sorry, Jerome, please go. I don't understand how this loser has a base that admires what he has done to divide this country. So I guess that's a sentiment against our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But today is a special day. We can get off and talk about all of
So I wanted to also mention, if you have a cell phone, people, go to poppystories.ca and click the scan your poppy button and push your poppy in front of the camera, and take 11 minutes to read about the story that comes up after you scan your poppy. So you scan your poppy. This is a Legion thing, Canadian Legion thing, safe website, poppystories.ca. Go there, scan your poppy, read about a soldier, World War I, II, III. Just scan your poppy and learn about a soldier. Take 11 minutes out of your day. Reflect in your own way, and let's remember today. Lest we forget.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you for your service. Thanks for being on the show. We'll have you on very in the near future, so thank you very much for being on today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for your participation in this conversation. I know the show's been all over the place, but hopefully we'll be able to have Jason Lafacci on at some point, maybe next week, if we were able to connect. He was expected to be on the show today. He kind of didn't show up for whatever reason. So, but we're anxious to talk to him and get his point of view on all of the subjects we've been talking about. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM and programming throughout the day on CKLU. Thanks for being with us, everyone. We make sure to remember, do what Brian just encouraged us to do, and then we'll be back same time, same place on Monday. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.